Hello there, everyone. Hi, it's Dr. Craig Hindson here, Loving Life Chiropractic, and I'm live today. I'm live. And I just had an urge to put together, or at least to talk to you guys a little bit about my story. There's a lot of people that have come to us recently, know nothing about me. They come to talks, they come to the practice to get examinations. So, obviously, with a patient-doctor relationship, I know quite a lot about you guys, so I thought I'd just share something about myself first. And I wanted to go live. This is completely not curated at all. And in fact, this video is probably going to be a bit ropey because I'm not going to produce it in any way. What I probably will do is down in the description, I'll put links to some of the resources I mention. And also, I'm probably going to put a link to a curated copy of this, nice pictures and such like, and shorten it because not everyone wants to hear me babble on. However, I just thought I just want to keep things a little bit real. So rather than, as I say, curate it and have it set up so that I'm saying certain things at certain times to press certain buttons for people, I just thought I'd just tell you a little bit about me. I'm now I've been in practice here in Ottawa for 5 years now, and with my beautiful wife, Dr. Marie-Claude. Super, super grateful and proud of her. And even despite the recent health scare, we've been doing better and better. It got quiet in 2020, obviously, like most places, but actually towards the end got really strong. 2021 was the best year ever. And we're now into 2022, and I'm looking forward to that moving forward. But the fact is, I'm just over 50 now. I actually retrained to be a chiropractor at the age of 45. Okay. Prior to that, rewind, in my late teens, I knew I wanted to join the military. I wanted to join the Royal Navy. Originally, I wanted to join as a seaman officer and drive ships. That's when I was like 4 or 5. Apparently, my mother told me that's what I wanted. We were brought up, probably lower class, you'd say. So I was brought up in a council flats apartment. So like here in North America, I think you call them projects in the US. I'm not quite sure what they call them here in Canada. But anyway, so worked hard at school, decided I was going to become an engineer, whether I was in the military or not. I actually became an engineer in the military, the Navy. Was in the Navy for 10 or 12 years and had a fairly easy ride. All in all, I was away on ships quite a lot, away from family and friends and stuff. But 94 was the first war zone I was in, the former Yugoslavia. We were off the coast of Yugoslavia, catching drug runners and gun runners in boats. And then I met Dr. Marie-Claude in just a few weeks after 9/11, actually. And she said, I met her out, I was out one night, and she said, "Oh, I'm a chiropractor." And I was quite arrogant and quite ignorant at that time. My stepfather, who was in construction, had been to a chiropractor, and he said they're a waste of time. So I said to her, "Oh, bad necks, bad backs, waste of time, waste of money." She said, "No, you don't understand. I work with babies born addicted to drugs. You know, I work with kids on asthma inhalers. I work with adults with learning difficulties." Okay. And I said, "Oh, that sounds a little bit left field to me." And I was very skeptical. And she said, "Look, if you want to date me, you've got to go along to this workshop." So I went along to a workshop. It was like the introductory workshop. And at the end, I was like, "Sign me up. I want to be a chiropractor. I want to leave the military." Actually, before I go any further, it's a requirement that I let you know that because this is partially a testimonial from me, I need to give you a disclaimer. This is official. I've got to give you a disclaimer. And the disclaimer is this. What I'm telling you now doesn't apply to everyone. The results vary from person to person. Okay, so talking about my story, I still need to give you that disclaimer because, of course, there is no scientific evidence backing what I'm telling you up. It's just my experience. Okay, so yeah, I had an epiphany at the end of this, and I was like, "This is what I want to do." So that was 2001. Well, actually, I then joined the Royal Marines, to be honest, to stay closer to Dr. Mary Claude, because they were based in Plymouth. And then 2 weeks later, I was walking around Afghanistan, Bagram Air Base, covered in grenades and with a weapon fully loaded and one up the spout, which as an engineering officer in the Navy was very, very foreign to me. Normally we sit in the back of the engine room drinking tea while the men run the engines and just tell us what's going on. So that was kind of a interesting time. So we were in Afghanistan for 3 or 4 months, came back, no real issues there. We then went out I was on a ship with D Company Royal Marines who dropped into the Al-Faw Peninsula in Iraq to capture the oil pipelines intact. So I was their liaison guy on the ship, and then I actually landed myself in Iraq, and we were based in Azabaya port for the attacks on Basra. So again, another interesting time. For me, the whole period, there's lots of very surreal. For the whole thing, for me, was absolutely surreal. I wasn't scared; it was just surreal. And I remember looking internally one time towards the end of the war in Iraq, and I just remember feeling there was a high level of anxiety or stress inside me. I could just feel it. It was palpable, and it was funny because I've never really noticed that before. So that was Iraq, and for me, Iraq was crazy. We were in this port. There was a big TV screen. I drove back to Kuwait. There was a body that needed to be put on a Galaxy transporter plane, a coffin, which was, I won't mention who it was, but it was someone in our unit. And I went back there with 6 Marines, and there were 6 airmen from a squadron, 849, 2 helicopters had crashed together, and there were 5 coffins there with them. So I asked the Marines, I was going to say, look, these guys are Navy just like us. Do you mind if we march them on board the plane? And this plane was the very first plane to return to the UK with bodies on. So there was the Prime Minister was there. There was thousands of people there. And bizarrely, I drove back into Iraq with these Marines, and we were watching the same plane land on the big screen. So, technology messes you up when you're in that sort of situation. Too much information, perhaps. Anyway, came back, and I was responsible for decompression training. I was responsible for helping men get back on the straight and narrow. And ironically, 3 months later, I just checked out. I was taken out of the unit for a while, and all sorts of interesting stuff went on. It wasn't just me. There were guys jumping out of windows, urban surfing on buses, on trains. It was crazy. And obviously put my wife, because I'd got married by that stage, through a tough time, to say the least. So I left the military a couple of years later, had the opportunity to leave, and took it with both hands because I was kind of tired of it by that stage, and was working for my wife. So I've been a chiropractic patient for 4 or 5 years at this stage. I was working as an assistant, in the practice, and then I ended up becoming the practice manager. We employed assistants. We bought a second practice, which is an interesting business move. This is in the UK, branded as Life Chiropractic in the UK, and that was going really well. And then it was time to move back. Actually, I want to tell you about one thing. There are actually a couple of things. Part of my recovery, and this is really what I'm about now, my whole thing is that when I had that loss of health that I had, I felt that there was no way back. Okay, even the expert in the medical diagnosis that I had, even the best expert said to me, look, your mind's going to go downhill more and more. There's nothing you can do about it, even if you take all the drugs. And I cried when he told me that, because I thought, well, there's no way back. Fortunately, I met an 80-year-old chiropractor. His name was Reggie Gold, and he'd been trained by a man called B.J. Palmer, who was the son of the very first chiropractor. He was like an incredible visionary for chiropractic back in the early 1900s until 1961 when he died. And anyway, Reggie Goat had been trained by him, and he obviously had his own viewpoint. He's very, very force of nature. It was a real blessing to meet him. And he explained to me the major principle of chiropractic. Chiropractic has nothing to do with bad necks and bad backs. Chiropractic is actually to do with allowing your body to express the incredible force within it, the incredible power within it. And when I was reminded of this, because I'd heard this before, but Reggie is very much a force of nature, I decided I would start doing things, more nutrition, more exercise, more mental health, good, loving thought activities. And I started to turn my life around. I took myself off the medication, which was right for me at the time because it was actually making me much worse. Now there is a time and a place for medication. I'll perhaps talk about that another time. But I started taking massive action, and I turned myself around. And halfway through it, or a couple of weeks into it, when I started to turn myself around, I was running across a bridge that I normally ran across every morning, and it was cordoned off by the police. And someone had jumped off, and I was absolutely gutted because I'll be honest, a few months previously, I'd been contemplating the same thing in exactly the same spot. And, I felt that there was no way out. And then, of course, a little bit later, I realized through Reggie and through the other understandings that there is a way out, So I said, if this stuff really works, I'm going to do something to tell people about it. So I wrote a book back in 2011. It's called 12 Steps Back from the Abyss, a war veteran's journey from depression to joy. And I started to turn my life around. And basically, when I was writing it, it was great for me. It brought me a lot of peace. And then when it was published, I was going around sharing it with people. In the first 3 months, I sold 2,000 copies. I didn't give them away, sold them, and the wonderful thing was there was 3 or 4 veterans I saw reading it. And as I passed them, they said, "Oh, this is good stuff, this." And even when I go back to read it now, I think, "Well, that's pretty good stuff. I wonder who wrote this." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, your ass, it's you." So that's 12 Steps Back from the Abyss. Now it's it is in circulation still. There'll be some ways you guys can get a hold of it. I personally, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this available at no expense. Okay, if you go down a link below, all you'll have to do is pay for postage if you're in Canada. I can get that off to you, no problem. So just check it out below. Click on the link. That's what I set up initially, and hopefully it'll be purchasable from Amazon and places like that. It was in England, but to be honest, they take such a cut, so much work to get it done that I haven't got that in place. It's not something that I've done at the moment, but as soon as I do, I'll put it down below. Okay, so I wrote that, and then the other one that I wrote, this was actually later on, that I'm super proud of, is called Heggy, Peggy, and Meggie. This is my children's book. I've actually got a plan for 8 of these. I'm hoping to get those produced in the future. Once I get a Canadian publisher on board, or a Canadian English publisher on board, that would be actually ideal. And we'll move forward with that. Now, the story behind this is 4 years after I came back from Iraq. Well, baby is 4 now. I've been really grumpy for like the first three and a half years of the baby's life. So to rebuild my relationship with Danica, who was 4 at the time, I would start reading her stories from a book. And then one day, and I don't know why, I just put it down. I just started making up stories, just making them up. And normally there were stories linked to what we'd been doing that day or the previous day or a couple of days previously. But it was always about 3 naughty witches called Heggy, Peggy, and Meggie. And after doing that for 2 years, I thought, well, I better write some of this down. So I wrote it down as in book format, and it wasn't as good because you're not doing the interactive bit. So I rewrote it, and Heggy, Peggy, and Meggie have got interactive sections where whoever you're reading to basically gets to fill in the blanks. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. So now author, international speaker, because I speak chiropractic all over the world, to chiropractors and to patients and to businesses. So that's awesome. And I know I've been going on for 14 minutes now, so I better start winding up. So so moved back to Canada, and then needed to decide what I wanted to do. I'd been a practice manager, I'd witnessed people's hearing return under chiropractic care. Now, remember, earlier on, I gave you the disclaimer, all right, because we often had a lot of people come in that had no hearing, had hearing issues. We adjusted them, and their hearing didn't come back. But we did have 3 people whose hearing returned while they're under care with us. Like ladies with, migraines, period problems, and guys with migraines, headaches. Lower back, neck. Most people have heard of that sort of stuff, but it was real crazy stuff that I got excited by. And we were seeing in the office in England, and we're starting to see it a lot more now. It's taken a couple of years for us to get into the groove here, but here in Canada, we're starting to see these cool results as well. And obviously, everyone is different, as I mentioned earlier in the disclaimer. All right. So what's happening now? So we've been here 4 or 5 years. I've got a brand that seems to be coming together. Everyone likes the images I'm producing to explain chiropractic, how stress reduces nerve system function, causes interference, and that sets up a process. You'll see a lot of those on the Loving Life Pyramid channel. So if you aren't on that channel, click through to the YouTube channel, Loving Life Pyramid, and there's explanations of all that sort of stuff there. And I think it's pretty neat. People are getting it. It's colorful, it's bright, and to me, it makes sense. Well, it makes sense to me anyway, so that's what I've got to be a little careful of. And what's happening in the future? Oh, well, the practice here is booming. We're actually getting an X-ray unit fitted. And we're looking to expand as and when appropriate. Things are going good. And my message, my mission is always to help you and your family do what you love for longer. Always help you do what you love for longer. I do that with chiropractic, by adjusting, and also by educating. And now with the Loving Life Pyramid, we've got this 3-layer natural process that I explain to people really easily that people get. Okay, people get it. So that's really exciting. Okay, and right, let's see what else we got. I just wrote down a couple of notes here. I just want to make sure. Yeah, I got everything really. I'm sorry that has been 17 minutes. If you have any comments, anything else you'd like to know about my progress or my story, or anything you'd like to know about the Loving Life Pyramid, or anything you'd like to find out about chiropractic, if you're out of the Ottawa area and you want to find a chiropractor who's good for you, I would suggest initially looking for someone like a family chiropractor in your area. There are a couple of websites I can refer you to, but put comments down below if you're having difficulties with that, okay? If you've made effort and you're not quite sure and you want to ask a question, put it in the comments down below, and I will circle back around and check out and make sure we get back to you. Anyway, I hope that has been of some interest, okay? And I hope that gives you a little bit of background on me as a chiropractor if you come to see me, or if you just want to find out a little bit about me as a person, even if you're not coming to see me. Okay, thanks very much. Take care, and stay tough.